Hello again and welcome to another Wilderness Tamed video with me, John Grundy. And today we have been lifting and separating some primula. Primrose, Primula vulgaris. And we've separated this clump out and now we're going to pop them up. Roll the credits. So I'm just gently lifting this clump of primula. They were healed into the ground quite loosely in the autumn, back in November. So it's going to come up pretty easily, as you can see. Tap off a little bit of excess soil there. And then if you look at this clump, you can see it's all divided into nice, neat little rosettes, individual plants, which should prise apart fairly easily. Yep, there you go. There's some coming away there. Some will separate quite easily and detach as single plants. Some crowns will be 2 to 3 plants still attached together by the roots. So to reduce too much stress and damage to the roots, we'll keep them as they are. But any individuals that come apart, we can certainly make use of those. Not that we can't make use of the 2s and 3s that are still stuck together. See, there's a couple there. That little one doesn't want to come away. Get one of those apart. There we go. A few more. So it's a fairly easy process. Some perennials, a little bit tougher, a little bit denser in the root crowns, and you have to sort of get a blade in or a spade or a fork to separate them successfully. But these are coming away quite nicely. Bring you a bit closer in there. So that's divided up, nice and tidy. Let's go and pop them up. Okay, I think that's over and done with. Right, so as you'll see from the previous little video clip, they form tight clumps of sort of multiple heads or rosettes of leaves, which separate quite easily. I mean, I did that with my bare hands. Some perennials, they're a bit denser. You've got to get a spade or a blade in and to separate them apart, which does, I mean, even this, you know, will have done some damage to the roots. But I've done it at a particular time of the month. We're going through a full moon phase. So according to the laws of biodynamics, which I'm quite interested in, all the energy is in the crown of the plant and not much happening in the roots. So it's a good time, so they say, the biodynamic types, it's a good time to lift and divide and do anything that's sort of below ground disturbance. As I say, because all the energy is up above the ground in the leaves and things. Not that there's going to be a lot happening because it's mid-January. But still, I reckon a good time to do it. If it's all true, which I kind of think there's some grounding in it, then I'm all for doing things that reduce the stress to plants or animals or whatever. So here we have multiple separated primulas, and now we're going to bang them into these pots, which I prepared earlier like this. So there's nothing too special about filling pots. You just dump a load of compost into them and then spread it about and make sure all the pots are full. Unlike the seed trays, I'm not firming this down particularly. Once the planting process happens, then the compost gets a little bit firmed in. But otherwise, just making sure that these pots are full to the brim with this nice finely sieved compost. Well, I say finely sieved, obviously it is full of lumps. Faffs about a bit, get on with it. All right. Yeah, nice. So all I've done, I'm going to shift these out of the way, is fill these to the top. Like I did with the seed tray in last week's video, you'll remember. One of my bugbears is amateur gardeners who are a bit stingy, as we say up here, with their compost and don't fill things to the brim. Fill it to the brim, give those plants as much root run as you can possibly afford to give them, or as much root run as the container that you're putting them in offers them, rather than just filling that by half and expecting, you know, to get a decent root ball out of it. So the crowns of these rosettes of leaves do stand a little proud of the ground, of the sort of natural soil level, the ground level. I'm just removing some of the dead leaves and things, or the overly long leaves, because again, because we've caused this disturbance to the root system, remember this is going back to balance, we don't want there to be more surface area of leaf than there is surface area of root, because they're going to transpire, they're going to sweat out or breathe out more moisture from the leaves than the root system can take up. Okay, again, because it's January, I'm not that concerned about it, because there's very little going on up here, which could be said for yours truly. So anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm not using any dibbers or trowels or anything to make a planting hole. Just going to prog in my fingers. The compost very loose, I didn't compact it down, didn't firm it down. Lodge that in and just firm that very, very gently into the centre of the pot. So I don't know if you could even see that. So it's like that. I'll zoom you in or bring you a bit closer for the next few, or for the rest. Okay, so take the next one. So this one won't separate out much more. I might leave that one to plant out back outside, because I've probably got more of these than I have pots in this tray. I had a good load of root on that, so again, plunge your fingers in, not quite to the bottom, so I don't want the roots immediately coming out through the drainage holes. Stuff them in, firming the compost around it. You can see I'm leaving that crown just proud of the compost there, just as they were growing out on the plot in the garden. Just going to remove the rather struggy, any raggy looking leaves that have been chewed or whatever. Remove. Okay, same again with this one. I'm not being particularly delicate with these, there's no need to be. They're tough as old boots, these plants. That's quite a good crowd. Now this one's got a flower on it. The clump this clump that I lifted, this is the only flower on the clump. Some of the other clumps next to it had quite a few flowers on. I didn't want to lift those particularly because the flowers do take a lot more energy from a plant than just supporting the leaves. I'll do. Oh, nice nice lump of compost in there. A bit of a tap, and a raggedy old bit of stalk or leaf on that one. And these will very quickly form nice plants which will be good enough to sort of sell at a market, should you want to do that sort of thing, or sell online if you have an online store, as I do. I tend not to sell, I take all these big leaves off, tend not to sell live plants now, sending them through the post. It's not so much that what you're sending out is of poor quality, or, you know, as long as you water them and pack them tightly, they're going to arrive well. But the problem I had in the past was a good old Royal Mail postal service just weren't delivering stuff in time, in the sort of allotted 2 to 3 days. You can see there's a flower bud coming on that one. So I was getting, not often, but it was often enough to sort of cheese me off, complaints from the people receiving the plants that they were dried out or squashed or whatever. And I just thought, you know what, it's not worth the bother. So I tend to just stick to the seeds now. And live plants I pot up like this and then sell direct to my customers, so I can deliver them in Poison and plant them up almost immediately, which is a better way to go, I think. But selling them face to face at a sort of market situation would be fine if I could be bothered to do it, which, as you can probably tell from my tone, I can't. I mean, some people go to car boot sales and sell plants. The problem with most car boot sales, especially here in the UK, is you've got to get up at 2:30, you're having a laugh in the morning to get there on time. They charge you for the pitch, and without sounding too harsh, taking your quality plants to a car boot sale, you're probably not selling them to the best market. It's a bit like advertising on face ache. It's the lowest hanging fruit as far as I'm concerned. That sounds horribly snobbish. Yeah, face ache, Gumtree. Was it Facebook Marketplace? Face ache, as a friend of mine insists on calling it, which I've kind of adopted that name for it now. That is it, that's a big old lump of plant, that. As is that. Of course, some of these are huge. That's going back in the garden. That's going back in the garden. So, well, I've got almost a full tray there. I'm four plants short of a full tray, and it's not the first time that's been said about me. But yeah, I would think by now, after doing 8 of them, 10 of them, you've got the general gist of it. And it's the same process. In the last video I mentioned that we'll come back to those seed trays that I sowed last week, and look at the sort of pricking out process and the potting up of those plants. It's exactly the same process. So if I do a video about that, I'll probably skip back to this. But these, if you come out with me, I'm going to distribute around my winter border, which is a bit bare at the minute because I took a few things out earlier in the autumn. But there's snowdrops coming through, Pulmonaria, the lungwort, is starting to show through, and a few other bits and bobs. Oh, the arum, the lords and ladies, that's showing through. So yeah, we'll get these back in the ground, and I mean, within 2 years, any one of these could be lifted again and probably form a clump that size and divided. So once you've got a few of these, And I have grown them from, well, I say I've grown them from seed. I've lifted seeds from around the clumps of some of these that are just naturally seeded in the soil in the garden, and potted those up into multi-cell trays as plug plants. I did sell a lot of those, and then I potted them on as they got larger, too large for the plugs, into pots like this, and then sold them as more mature plants for a bit more dosh. So plants for free, it's great, and these kind of like perennials like these, they divide really easily, and the autumn, winter and very early spring months are great times to do it because the plants themselves are fairly dormant. And again, if you're following biodynamic principles, do it when the moon is full. And then, according to the laws of biodynamics, the energy in the plant is above the soil, so disturbance of the root is to a minimum. The reverse of that is new moon phase, the energy is going back into the root system and root growth, so it's a good time to do anything to the plant that is above the ground, such as pruning, trimming, hedge cutting and that sort of thing, try and do around the new moon phase. If you're into that sort of thing. If you're not, then don't bother. But I did, when I first got interested in biodynamics, I did see a difference in growth rates around the full moon phase. And this was in a nursery that I was working at the time. But that's possibly a story for another video. So in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed that potting up process. Let's go and do a bit of planting up. Planting process, fairly simple. Just clear a little space, plunge in the trowel, prog in the plant and tamp the compost back in lightly around it. Get rid of any creeping buttercup weeds. Next clump, don't plant it in the middle of the snowdrops, clear another bare space and plant it in. This is a very similar process to the potting on. I'm just using a trowel to loosen the soil rather than my fingers. The soil has been recently frosted and frozen, so it's a little bit firmer than the compost in the pots. Again, I'm not faffing about adding in fertilizers and nutrients to these plants. They're native plants, not necessary. It's not necessary for any plants really, unless your soil is absolutely shocking in quality. But some people do tend to overdo it when they're planting plants. That could be another topic for another video, I think. I have a lot to say about it. Anyway, that's them planted. Trays watered, job's a good one. And that, my good friends, is all there is to it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it, again, moderately useful. If you have and you've liked it, at the very least, give a thumbs up. That would be great. It helps spread the videos out to other people like yourself who are on a bit of a learning curve with their gardens. And to top that, you could actually click the subscribe button and the little bell icon, and you'll get an alert when the next video comes out. And you can join me on this learning process. I'm not learning, I'm teaching, hopefully. That's the endeavour anyway. So until the next one, go out and get grubby and enjoy yourself in the garden, especially when the weather's as bright and sunny as it is out there now. I'm about to head out again and think about what I can teach you in the next one. Take care.